Know how to use it. Appreciate you calling back in. So we'll kick right off. First, I want to share a little bit about our 2025 wildfire season preparedness and how the smoke detectors fit into that. And some of you have seen some of this content before, but in essence, from a standpoint of like just being a FireWise community working toward being fire adapted, there's 5 major buckets that we have to think about. The first one is mitigation. And mitigation is, how do we mitigate the impact of a wildfire? How do we help it become less powerful and out of control? And for us as residents, that typically means things around defensible space, roadside clearing, and putting all sort of the things in preparation for a fire coming. It could be new water tanks and things like that. Preparedness oftentimes means, it could mean home hardening, which is the most important thing for a wildfire, is to, put the 1/8-inch screens on your vents and make sure that you don't have any holes in your house where embers could intrude. But preparedness is also personal preparedness. It's where you sign up for watch duty and code red and make sure you know your evacuation zone. Pop quiz to my friend Ohm and Dusty. They just figured theirs out yesterday. What do you think it is? Quick pop quiz. You got that? It's NCOE 187. Bam. So preparedness means being ready for the fire, being ready for what's to come, and making sure you have your go bags and things of that nature. UBET has also been working on the response side. And ultimately, this is where the wildfire sensors fit in. So we have our handheld radio program, we have the sensors, and we have a team of folks that we've been working with to train to respond to fires effectively. And then the evacuation is, what we do when it's time to go, and recovery is where we hope we never get there. So what it looks like from the UBET perspective this year, I want to thank you guys for doing your wildfire mitigation. We've had community green waste. We're seeing massive improvement in the properties as we drive up and down UBET. And we have done quite a few defensible space visits to neighboring homes, which is where we give an assessment for both their defensible space and their home hardening and help them become more fire safe. So today, again, we're super excited about the smoke sensors and how it fits into our program. So with that, one more quick thing. Why the N5 shield sensors matter? There's 4 kind of primary areas. The first is early detection. So it will identify and address small fires before they grow. And as most everyone knows, we residents are first in 100% of the time on every fire in UBET. So this matters, right? It's not even that minutes matter, it's seconds matter. We can respond faster, and we can, with our new training, we can be more effective when we are able to respond and do an initial attack on a small fire. Improve safety, right? So we're in a very difficult situation with our 9-mile road. So if we wait for a code red to tell us to evacuate, it might already be too late. UBET Road could conceivably be closed. So for us, it gets the jump on alerting our neighbors that something's happening, and we're not going to be alarmist about it, right? It's just to say, hey, be aware there's something happening, and then we'll close it out when we recognize that there's no threat. And last but not least, I mean, gosh, these wildfires, they're super expensive, not to mention the time and emotional angst of losing a home. So if we can prevent that from happening, and prevent the fire agencies from having to do a full wildland, extended attack over days, if not weeks, that saves millions and sometimes billions of dollars. So it truly does have impact across the board. I did want to give a quick overview of what we've been doing with the smoke sensors. We've been in test. So we were awarded this grant, and we started in May of 2024. And we instantly met here locally with Heather and No Wildfire. And then we met with CAL FIRE and Peardale separately and collectively. And so we started collaborating with them around where should these sensors go. And from their past experience with fires in our community and fire behavior, they made some really specific recommendations. And then we went into planning with No Wildfire. And then we started doing site visits to our neighbors. And mostly that was Mike. Mike, did you want to speak to that at all?
Sure. We got together with CAL FIRE and Peardale, and we kind of scouted out different locations for our sensors. Some came to tuition. We ended up putting sensors there. Some we had to back off, and it was a slow process. But I now have 14 of the 15 sensors in ground and working. I installed one today, and I just got one more to go.
Thank you, Mike. And so behind the scenes, Mike has been the implementer, the contactor of our neighbors. The site visits require, making sure that there's solar, enough sun for the solar to operate, and cell coverage. So not every site, we pick out we thought would be good strategically, but it didn't always work out. So he's probably done, I don't know, 20, 40, 50 site visits. And once they're installed, he has to go back and troubleshoot them as well. So thanks to Mike for getting us up and running. And then we've continued to have update meetings with CAL FIRE and Peardale Fire Department. But the main thing is that we went live going into the fall, knowing that it's burn season and we would see a lot of burn pile. And Heather will walk us through a little bit about what the data showed there. And then we kind of finalized in May with CAL FIRE sort of the protocols that they'll be using through their emergency command center, which is dispatch basically for all resources. And so today, here we are rolling out to the community. This is where we all come in. So huge shout out. I said to Mike, that picture with Heather and Mike in the upper left was way back last summer when the boxes got delivered to us. And, he learned with Heather and her partners how to build and install the units. And then all the neighbors, down below, we went to a lot of properties. You've got Mike Tony, Ron Miner at Hanson's Quarry. You've got Brad. So it's really been a team of people coming together to bring this to life. So with that, turning over to Heather, and I did not make you a co-host as I was going to try to practice to do. So just let me know when you would like me to click.
This actually works better. We have it down.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
I'm Heather Dawson, and I live over here in Truckee. So I am also a member of Nevada County in a very high fire district. And so I'm really only an hour and a half away, and always happy to visit and bring bread. And I started working with the N5 sensor manufacturer about a year and a half ago, helping them bring this new technology to market. It was supported by the U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Merrill Merritt. And our point of view is that homeowners just really don't have a lot of tools to help us understand this changing landscape. And so we really wanted to bring this down to the community, but that requires community participation. And so we're experimenting with this brand called Guardian, because between N5 and No Wildfire, Guardian kind of brings us together. Click.
Trying.
Hopefully click.
No, you know what? Hang on. I know where I have to go down to the bottom here. It's not a keyboard click. My apologize.
No worries. So we all know that the risk is increasing and it's not going to go away anytime soon. We've heard, hey, this is the worst fire that we've ever seen in 100 years. And then the next year we hear the same thing. And the next year we hear the same thing. And so it's really important for us to prepare not just for historical, but also to be prepared for an unknown future that where we ideally want to thrive and survive, or survive and thrive. Click. And what this means from a wildfire perspective is there just isn't that much time anymore from the time the ember hits the ground and starts the fire to when it grows really quickly. And I know your community really lives this, being first in on every fire. And those first few minutes really count, right? So, it's going to grow faster. It's going to get bigger, create its own winds. And so this fast response is critical. Click. Of course, we kind of all know this, but it because it's growing exponentially, it seems small for a bit, and then it just explodes. And we want to get there before. We want to detect that fire in the smoldering phase and be able to get first eyes on the fire and begin to organize the response as quickly as possible. Click. And it can mean not just benefits for our immediate community, but it can save billions. Every fire that doesn't get big is a huge economic benefit, and we're not tracking that yet. We're tracking all the loss, but we're not tracking all the wins. And this is really a program about the wins. Click. So when we look at like, how do we compress that response time? The ignition is the ignition, and all the others are constant. Dispatch is going to take the amount of time it takes. Travel is based on availability of resources and arrival. So the only thing that we can really easily compress is this notification. And so that's kind of where we're focused. That's why early detection is so critical. Click. And of course, you like us are in a completely red hazard zone. And so, that makes us really at the center of the storm. Click. Thinking about early detection, this is not a new concept. We have been trying to identify fires way back in the watchtower days with people camping or spending summers up there, to fire sighting telescopes, and now AI fire cameras are becoming mainstream. We had Chief Hudson come to our community and say, look, that's the difference maker. We're going to invest in 100 more cameras over in Nevada County, because 30% of the fires are being detected by cameras, and it's way more efficient and faster for us than humans. So we're going to make this investment. But that's 9 years after that technology came to market. And of course, once the fire is above the canopy, the cameras can see it. But what about when it's smoldering below the canopy and in our backyards? And that's really where this environmental sensor technology can come in. It was introduced in 2022, and we're working with the N5 sensor company to bring that product to communities under the brand Guardian. Click.
Before we move on, importantly here, you guys, UBET has a number of dark spots with those AI fire, the cameras. So like Alert California cameras we see on watch duty, we have a lot of kind of places where the cameras can't see. So these sensors help us fill that gap.
And it was kind of interesting, just kind of relaying on that, was talking with Chief Beerwagon and Chief Chiswick and asking the question, where's your biggest fear? Like, if you have a fire in these locations, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? And can you tell me which way the wind is blowing in your biggest, scariest moment? Because the sensors are pick up fires that are upwind. They might be 20, 30 feet away, but if the wind is going in the wrong direction, they're not going to pick this up. So that was a really important part of learning and planning for this. And now, of course, we need to collect some data and continue to improve on that. But here's what happens is that they detect smoke, and they have specialized gas sensors that the N5 sensor company invented 10 years ago that can detect gases. So a wildfire isn't just smoke. It's not just, it's differentiated from other kinds of fires. We don't want to pick up barbecues. Ideally, we don't want to pick up chimneys, although chimney has a very similar signature to wildfire smoke. But we want to be able to do more than just particle sensing in this, and to detect the signature of wildfire. And so they do that in an off-grid way with, there's a solar panel, a battery, an antenna. They collect information every few seconds, they consolidate that, and then they have an artificial intelligence engine that says, hey, I think we have a fire here. And so these alerts are generated from N5, and we pass them through to you on your phone via text messages. And the messages are orange alert or red alert. And an orange alert is, hey, I think there's smoke. I'm not really sure if it's a new fire, but I'm pretty sure that there's smoke somewhere. And a red alert is, I'm pretty sure, probability wise, that we have a new fire. And it's something that we want you to look up and see what you see. And our app will tell you how far that sensor is and that alert from your home. So if it's close by, look up and tell us what you see. And that's the beginning of the response reaction that we're building collectively with the community. It's also going to the command center, but they're maybe 50, 100 miles away. So they don't see what you see, and we can really hone in on that. Click. A little bit of a deep dive for the technical folks. There's 24 different gas sensors. There's 4 different particle sensors. There's a humidity and a temperature sensor. And then we also have wind sensors. So it's very, it's built for commercial, and we're kind of bringing it into consumer. There may be more products over time that are even more consumer oriented, but this is a kind of an industrial grade product. Click. And the ones that we have in UBET, they communicate over LTE, but the infrastructure can also be lower end satellite. And again, that's really important when we think about some of the off-grid needs that we have. Click. I don't even know why this one's here, but just
because it looks really
good. But you can see that the heat sensor is pretty broad. So when you get to 212 Fahrenheit, it's pretty close to burning up. And they've actually tried to burn these in a fire, and they survive reasonably well. But again, just another technical. This is pretty serious stuff. It's not DIY. It's pretty high quality, serious stuff. And the cloud environment behind them is also collecting terabytes of data and trying to hone in on the location and the immediate time when you can recognize that it's a fire. Click.
Heather, if I could, clarification. My understanding when we first started talking about this is that the technology was first developed by the Department of Homeland Security or something like that for chemical warfare, and they were repurposing it for other applications, and wildfire was one of the ways that they selected.
Yeah, so N5 sensors has been around for a long time, about 10 years. And they, out of the University of Maryland, developed this nano gas sensor chip. Okay, it's a chip. It's manufactured, they manufacture it. But most of the products that this chip has gone into are for to detect chemicals when we have people out, when in war situations where we have people out and they may not be able to smell or see a gas that's been released, but we need to pull them out of the environment immediately once that's out there. So the chips can be programmed to detect a specific chemistry or a specific group of chemicals. And in this case, they programmed it for the wildfire detection. And of course, with each release, we continue to improve that.
Very cool. Thank you.
And then in UBAT, we had 2 wind sensors. And again, these are wind sensors that are industrial grade. And this is important because airplanes don't fly when the wind is above 20 miles per hour. And so the response that is possible is, dictated by wind. And so we have one of the wind sensors on Old Immigrant and one in Chalk Bluff. And Mike has 4 more wind sensors. And we're looking to the community to help us get our arms around when and how that wind data helps us with response. So you have extra ones in your community so that we can build competence around that. Click. So before we have the sensors, we have two cameras. I don't know if any new ones have come up. I don't think so.
No.
But you know, pretty broad coverage, but not great in the valleys. And then click, after we put the sensors in, we have a lot more coverage across it. We can always have more. More is always better. But we have 14 now and one more to go. And then Sean, your neighbor in Colfax, also has sensors that he's deploying in a similar program with his fire chiefs and also his community. And so really, we're going to have this big 30 sensor network right here between Placer and Nevada that we can all benefit from in terms of early detection. Click. So as part of your subscription, you have all of the Firewise community that KC is working with have a special app subscription. It's prepaid until March of 2027 to allow us to get as many people as we need on it and to get feedback and improve it. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit on that. I did send the link in the chat. And if you have your phone, you're welcome to begin installing it on your phone and getting ready to go. Click. So after you register and you give us your name, your phone number, and your address, and then we put a kind of a radius around your address, and that's your protection zone. And yours, you can set that up to 10 miles, and you can put additional places or points down if you want to monitor more what's going on in Colfax or other areas across the state.